The whisper of a high-stakes poker game in a back room, the clinking of chips, the hushed tension, the promise of easy money flowing like cheap whiskey. You imagine a couple of guys with a folding table, a deck of cards, and a cigar-chomping loan shark in the corner. That's the movie version. That's the romanticized lie. The truth is, running an illegal casino, one that actually lasts longer than a Tuesday night, is a far more complex, capital-intensive, and frankly, terrifying business proposition than most legitimate startups. Forget the romantic notion of a quick buck. This isn't about avoiding taxes. It's about navigating a treacherous landscape where every single cost is inflated by risk, every employee is a potential liability, and every dollar earned comes with a shadow attached. So what does it really take to even open the doors of a so-called underground casino? It starts, as all businesses do, with real estate. You need a location, ideally one discreet enough to avoid immediate detection, yet accessible enough for your clientele. We're not talking about some back alley broom closet. A real illegal casino needs space for multiple gaming tables, a bar, a lounge area, perhaps even a separate room for private games. Renting a suitable space, say, a nondescript warehouse or a large commercial unit in a less trafficked industrial park, can easily run you anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 a month in a medium-sized city. In a major metropolitan area, double or triple that. But finding the space is just the first hurdle. You can't just sign a lease. You need a landlord who either doesn't ask too many questions or one who has been adequately persuaded to look the other way. That persuasion, of course, isn't free. Once you have the shell, the real money drain begins with the build-out. This isn't just cosmetic. We're talking about heavy-duty security measures. Think reinforced doors, soundproofing to muffle the cheers and groans of high-stakes play, and an extensive surveillance system. High-definition cameras covering every angle, monitors in a secure back room, and often a dedicated server to store footage, just in case you need to review a misunderstanding or identify a cheater. This setup alone for a decent operation can easily cost you $20,000 to $50,000. And that's before you even buy a single poker chip. Then there's the escape route planning, the hidden compartments, the panic buttons, all adding layers of cost and complexity that a legitimate business never has to consider. Now, for the actual gaming equipment. You can't run a serious casino with a plastic tablecloth and a dollar store deck of cards. You need professional-grade poker tables, blackjack tables, perhaps a roulette wheel, and high-quality chips. A single decent poker table can set you back $2,000 to $5,000. A roulette wheel, with its intricate mechanics, can be $10,000 or more. Thousands of chips, each with a specific denomination, plus card shufflers, card shoes, and secure chip storage. All told, outfitting a modest illegal casino with just a handful of tables and the necessary accessories will likely cost you another $50,000 to $100,000. And remember, this equipment isn't exactly bought with a receipt from a reputable supplier. It's often purchased through illicit channels at a premium or acquired through other less legal means, which adds its own layer of risk and cost. But the biggest upfront financial commitment, the one that truly separates the dreamers from the operators, is the bankroll. This is the float, the cash on hand needed to pay out winners instantly. You can't tell a high roller who just hit a 20-to-1 payout on a $3,000 bet that you need to run to the ATM. That's a one-way ticket to losing your clientele, or worse, losing a few teeth. A small 5-table operation might need a minimum of $50,000 to $100,000 in cash just to cover potential wins on any given night. A larger, more ambitious setup could require several $100,000 or even $1 million sitting in a vault, ready to be distributed. This isn't profit, it's working capital, and it's almost entirely at risk. It's the most liquid asset, the most tempting target for internal theft, and the first thing seized in a raid. Then comes the human capital, which in this business is more like human liability. You need dealers, pit bosses, security personnel, bartenders, and possibly even a chef. These aren't minimum wage jobs. You're asking people to risk their freedom for your enterprise, so you have to pay a premium. A skilled dealer might demand $200 to $500 a night, depending on the stakes. A reliable pit boss, overseeing the games and managing disputes, could easily command $1,000 a night. And your security detail? Those aren't just bouncers. They're often ex-cons or individuals with a certain reputation who expect significant compensation for their loyalty and willingness to handle problematic situations. Factor in 10 to 20 staff members, even part-time, and you're looking at payroll costs that can easily hit $10,000 to $50,000 a week. All paid under the table, of course. And finally, the unwritten, unspoken, yet utterly unavoidable cost of doing business in the shadows: protection. Whether it's to local law enforcement turning a blind eye, or to organized crime syndicates ensuring your territory isn't encroached upon, this is a non-negotiable expense. It's not a one-time payment, it's a recurring tax on your illicit enterprise. Often a percentage of your gross take, or a fixed weekly or monthly fee. This can range from a few $1,000s a month for a smaller operation to tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands if you're running a major underground palace. This money isn't just for protection from raids. It's also for protection from rivals, from disgruntled employees who might turn informant, and from the general chaos of the criminal underworld. It's the cost of buying a temporary, fragile piece. So, you've secured the location, fortified it, filled it with gaming tables, stocked the vault with a small fortune, hired your crew of loyal, or at least well-paid individuals, and started paying your dues to the powers that be. You're probably already $500,000 to $1 million deep, and you haven't even opened for business yet. This isn't some side hustle. It's a full-blown, high-stakes investment. And this is where the real irony of the easy money illusion kicks in, because all those costs, they're just the beginning. They don't include the constant, gnawing fear of the inevitable knock on the door or the internal conflicts that can tear an operation apart. How do you even begin to recoup an investment of this magnitude when every single aspect of your operation is under the constant threat of being shut down, or worse, taken over by someone more ruthless? And the very act of making money increases your visibility to those who want to take it from you. The answer, of course, lies in volume and the immutable laws of probability, skewed relentlessly in your favor. An illegal casino, just like its legitimate cousin, thrives on the house edge. Blackjack, with its typical 0.5% advantage for the house, or roulette, offering a 5.26% edge on a double zero wheel, are your bread and butter. Poker, while often seen as player versus player, still generates revenue through the rake, a small percentage taken from each pot, usually around 2.5 to 10%, capped at a certain amount, perhaps $10 to $25 per hand. And unlike regulated casinos, you have the flexibility, or rather the freedom, to subtly tweak the rules, to tighten the odds ever so slightly, or to introduce games with an even more aggressive house advantage. Because who's going to complain to the gaming commission? Your players aren't your average tourist looking for a free drink. They are often high rollers seeking anonymity, individuals with questionable funds, or those banned from legitimate establishments. They come through word of mouth, through trusted intermediaries known as whales or connectors who bring in their own networks, or through a very discreet, almost invisible marketing campaign aimed at a very specific demographic. These players are often willing to lose more, play longer, and chase bigger scores, making them ideal targets for a business model built on sustained losses. On a good night, A single table of high-stakes blackjack or craps can turn over hundreds of thousands of dollars. With 10 or 12 tables running, plus a few private poker rooms, your gross take can easily reach hundreds of thousands, sometimes $1 million, in a single weekend. But this isn't simply money you pocket. From that gross, you still have to subtract your ongoing protection payments, the salaries for your dealers, pit bosses, security, and administrative staff, the cost of food and drinks, and the constant need to refresh your bankroll as players win and lose. More importantly, you have to contend with the sheer logistical nightmare of managing vast quantities of untraceable cash. Every dollar that comes in is dirty. It needs to be cleaned, a process that often involves complex money laundering schemes, each with its own set of facilitators, fees, and risks. This can eat up another 5 to 20% of your profits, depending on the sophistication and scale of the laundering operation. Failing to clean it means you're sitting on stacks of unusable cash, a liability rather than an asset. And the more successful you become, the larger your footprint, the more noticeable your operation. This isn't a silent growth curve. It's a blinking neon sign in the underworld. More money flowing means more eyes watching, more hands reaching. Your protection costs, already substantial, will inevitably increase. Local enforcers might demand a larger cut. Organized crime. Syndicates might decide your success warrants a renegotiation of terms. Or worse, a rival group might decide your territory is too lucrative to ignore. The very act of making money, the very metric of your success, becomes the catalyst for your greatest threats. It's a paradox. The better you do, the more precarious your position becomes. So, how do you manage this ever-escalating risk, this constant pressure, when every decision could mean the difference between another profitable night and a full-scale raid? Or worse, a violent takeover? Managing is a strong word, implying control. What you actually do is react constantly. You adjust your protection payments upwards, sometimes by as much as 50% overnight, not based on a contract, but on the whim of the local enforcers who now see your booming operation as a limitless cash cow. One week, it's an extra $5,000 for unforeseen neighborhood expenses. The next, it's a non-negotiable $10,000 for maintaining stability. This isn't negotiation. It's a dynamic, ever-increasing tax on your illicit success, a new line item in your already bloated budget, and a direct hit to your already thin profit margins. This can easily escalate to hundreds of thousands of dollars annually, just to keep powerful hands out of your till. Then there's the internal threat, a creeping paranoia that eats at your sleep. Your dealers, your pit bosses, your security personnel, they see the cascades of cash. They know what's at stake. A disgruntled employee, perhaps one who feels underpaid or overlooked after a month of 12-hour shifts, can easily become an informant for law enforcement, trading information for immunity, or even worse, for a rival organization looking to muscle in. The cost of vetting, monitoring, and occasionally disciplining these individuals becomes another significant overhead. You're constantly investing in loyalty, which often means paying above market rates, offering generous bonuses that stretch your payroll, and sometimes making stark public examples of those who step out of line. A grim deterrent that costs you not just money, but a piece of your soul. Your total payroll, including these loyalty expenditures, can easily reach $500,000 a year for a mid-sized operation. The discreet warehouse, once a bastion of clandestine commerce in its low-traffic industrial park, begins to feel less like a fortress and more like a target. Every unfamiliar car parked down the street for more than 5 minutes, every unexpected knock on the reinforced steel door, every flickering camera feed from your extensive surveillance system sends a cold jolt of ice through your veins. The soundproofing, once a thoughtful amenity to mask the clatter of chips and the shouts of a craps table, becomes a desperate necessity to muffle the screams of a high-stakes poker game that could draw unwanted attention from blocks away. You invest in more sophisticated surveillance than most legitimate businesses. High-definition cameras with night vision, motion sensors on the perimeter, even plainclothes lookouts blending into the surrounding businesses, all running 24 hours a day. These aren't one-time costs, they're continuous drains, adding hundreds of thousands of dollars to your annual operational expenses, all designed to buy you a few more nights of uneasy, anxious peace. But peace is an illusion, a temporary reprieve. One chaotic Friday night, the casino floor is packed. Money is flowing, the air thick with cigarette smoke, and the adrenaline of high-stakes gambling. A few hours after opening, the primary air conditioning unit, a crucial piece of equipment for a crowded, windowless space, suddenly sputters and dies. It's not a major catastrophe, but it's an immediate, palpable inconvenience. Players start to sweat, tempers fray, and the high rollers, who expect a certain level of comfort for their exorbitant wages, begin to grumble loudly. As your floor manager tries to placate them, a frantic call comes in from one of your exterior lookouts. 3 unmarked sedans, too clean, too dark, just pulled into the industrial park. They're moving slowly, methodically, not towards your building directly, but systematically cruising past each unit, clearly scanning the area. The air goes out of the room faster than the AC could have ever removed it, replaced by a sudden, chilling silence. This is it, the moment you've been dreading, the one you've poured millions into avoiding, sacrificing sleep, peace, and morality. Do you initiate the full shutdown protocol, risking the immediate loss of $100,000 in potential revenue from the current night's take? The fury of a casino full of frustrated losing players who might resent being cut off, and the chaos of moving all that cash quickly? Or do you try to ride it out, gambling that they're just passing through, risking a full-scale raid that could lead to immediate arrests, the complete asset forfeiture of your multi-million-dollar investment in equipment and property, and decades in a federal prison? Your instincts scream for extreme caution, but your ledger, thick with expenses and the promise of untold profits, screams for one more hour. The clock is ticking, the sedans are getting closer, and your entire illegal empire, built on mountains of cash and layers of deceit, hangs on a decision made in a split second under the suffocating weight of fear, greed, and the chilling proximity of the law. What do you do when the very success you chased becomes the undeniable bait for the trap you tried so hard and so expensively to escape? The answer, almost always, is that you do not have a choice. The sedans are not passing through. They are there for you. Your split-second decision is less about strategy and more about which flavor of inevitable disaster you prefer. If you initiate the shutdown, the chaos is immediate. Imagine 100 angry gamblers, many of whom are already losing, suddenly told the game is over, the house is closed, and their cash is being swept away. The scene devolves into a desperate scramble, a stampede for exits, and a mad dash to hide the mountains of illicit cash and high-value chips. Even if some escape, the evidence left behind is damning. The professional-grade tables, the slot machines, the surveillance equipment, the very scent of desperation and stale cigarette smoke that clings to the walls. The financial loss is staggering, easily in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for that single night's potential revenue, plus the damage to your reputation among the very clientele you cultivated. But at least you might walk away, for now. However, if you try to ride it out, banking on a bluff, the outcome is far more definitive. The unmarked sedans, now joined by marked patrol cars and a tactical unit, converge on your discreet warehouse. Reinforced doors become mere suggestions against a battering ram. The soundproofing that cost you tens of thousands of dollars now only serves to muffle the shouts of Police, get down! For a few precious, horrifying seconds. The carefully chosen, compliant landlord suddenly becomes a key witness for the prosecution. Your multi-million-dollar investment in equipment, from the custom-made poker tables to the high-stakes roulette wheels, becomes evidence, then government property, then scrap. Your meticulously built bankroll, maybe hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars in cash, is seized. And you, the proud proprietor of this illicit enterprise, find yourself on your knees, hands behind your head, facing not just a fine, but a federal indictment with potential decades in prison. The initial investment of $7 to $12 million, gone. The six-figure monthly operating costs, all for naught. The promise of millions in profit, a cruel, distant whisper. This is the true economic model of the illegal casino. A business built on an accelerating treadmill of risk and expense, where every success plants the seed of its own destruction. The very visibility required to attract high-rolling players is also the visibility that draws the unwanted attention of law enforcement. The need for professional equipment, skilled dealers, and a secure location inflates costs to a point where the margin for error shrinks to nothing. You are not just competing with legal casinos. You're competing with the full might of the state, which has an unlimited budget for enforcement and a zero-tolerance policy for your particular brand of entrepreneurial spirit. So why do they do it? Why do people pour millions into a venture with such a clear, almost inevitable expiration date and such devastating consequences? It is rarely about pure, cold economic logic. It is about the allure of the forbidden, the intoxicating power of operating outside the system, the ego-driven belief that they are smarter, faster, more discreet than all the others who failed. It is the dream of a quicker, easier path to wealth. Ignoring the glaring signposts that warn it is a path straight to ruin. The true cost of owning an illegal casino is not just measured in dollars and cents. It is measured in sleepless nights, constant paranoia, shattered lives, and the chilling realization that the house always wins, even if that house is the legal system itself. If you found this dissection of the hidden costs and ultimate downfall of the illicit gambling world insightful, consider exploring other corners of the crime economy with us.